Welcome to this video. My name is Christian from the Premiere, and here's a breakdown and ending explain of episode 2 of Evil. And this time they're investigating a whole lot of weirdness. The priest and a few others of the church are convinced that a werewolf is hunting the graveyard. Sounds like a classic evil setup, but things are not quite what they seem. Turns out the werewolf is actually a bunch of robots and dogs gone rogue. They're not just randomly attacking. This whole thing starts to get really creepy, especially when you see what kind of damage those dogs are capable of. Throughout the episode, David got himself a new problem: remote vision. The Vatican, always with a plan, puts him through a test involving a hexagonal table, an ace of diamond card, and a bunch of strangers. David's drawings turned out to be similar to the footage captured by the camera, revealing his ability to see things without being there. He's a remote viewer, and the Vatican seems pretty damn excited about it. But why David's remote vision ability is a big deal in the context of the upcoming apocalypse? Number one is a prophecy. The series has been building towards a doomsday prophecy and the end of the world. Grace, the seemingly prophetic figure, is a key element in this storyline. Now, the Vatican, through the entity, is actively trying to prevent the apocalypse. This is why the Vatican sees David's unique abilities as a critical asset in this fight. This will provide them with the invaluable information and insights they need to counter whatever the demonic forces are planning. Think of it this way: David could be used to see what's happening in key locations: the demonic house, Grace Ling, even the activities of Leland and his followers. This could give them a huge advantage in preventing the birth, the Antichrist. With knowledge of the future events, the Vatican could take proactive steps to counter the prophecy fulfillment. David's vision could help the Vatican understand the demonic forces and devise a strategy to combat them. But here's a breakdown of Leland's plan in this episode, focusing on the information he provides to the manager. As you know, Leland wants to rise within the demonic organization, ultimately becoming the leader. He aims to control the birth of the Antichrist, the culmination of the Doomsday prophecy. Leland informs the manager that his baby is almost 8 months pregnant and due to give birth on the exact date predicted in the prophecy. He's already working on controlling the birth situation to ensure the child's success. Leland tells the manager that he's working on securing the biological mother. This is likely a reference to Kristen, who's the mother of the Antichrist. Leland plays on the manager's misogyny, convincing him that Cheryl could be given a promotion to prove her loyalty and effectiveness. So why this matters? Well, Leland is using deception and manipulation to his advantage. He's playing on the manager's bias and exploiting the power dynamic within the demonic group. Leland is taking control of the most crucial aspect of the prophecy, positioning himself to shape the Antichrist's birth and the future of the demonic world. He's using Cheryl as a pawn to consolidate his power while setting up her failure by placing her in a position of vulnerability. But as we know, Cheryl is gonna fight back. But as we know, Leland's plans are far from complete. He's working on multiple fronts to control the prophecy, but with his schemes constantly evolving, we're left wondering, will he succeed, or will Kristen and her team stop him? The main storyline of this episode is the evil dog, or the robotic dogs who attack, and the investigation that follows. Here's a quick rundown. The mystery of the attacking Robo-dogs. David is attacked by Robo-dog while investigating the haunted graveyard. We soon discover that a similar attack happened to Sister Agnes. The attacks seem to be targeted. Both victims are Black and Catholic, suggesting a potential motive beyond simple malfunction. They initially suspect that the owner of the attack dog, Harley, but he turns out to be Black as well, making racial targeting less likely. Harley reveals that he modified the software using a hack he found on Reddit, hinting at a larger conspiracy. The hacker logo is a demonic house, linking the attacks to the overarching prophecy and the demonic forces. There's two things that are happening in this episode. Andy is having a rough time in episode 2. We see him how Leland is secretly injecting Andy, likely with a substance that causes nightmares and alters his behavior. He's also hypnotizing Andy to keep him under his control, and these nightmares are terrifying and disturbing. He experienced a nightmare of being buried alive under an avalanche, so we can see how he's been really affected My question is what Andy's role is going to be played out in the prophecy and the future episode. Also in this episode, we can see how Ben is trying to explain what happened in the first episode and he's having visions and so on. So like he said, how can he explain this with science is something that we see here and something that I imagine is going to play out in the future episodes as well, how this is going to be affect his mindset of what is possible or not. Remember, he's a man of science, so seeing all of this is crazy for him. Ben, as we know, is experiencing presence of the jinn, the demonic entity that previously haunted the apartment. Now his vision is manifesting in his apartment as a strange visual phenomenon. He sees different colors, which he believes present the jinn presence in different ways. Ben notes that he's seeing the jinn more frequently. Suggesting the entity influence is growing stronger. But what's gonna happen? All of this is making Ben question his own sanity as he's trying to understand the experience, but also the jinn is making it harder to separate reality from illusion. This internal conflict, I imagine, is going to be a huge part of the upcoming episodes, and I believe this is going to be worse for the character of Ben. I'm not looking forward to seeing that, but what are your thoughts on what's going to happen with Ben? What I'm more excited for the future episodes is the storyline of the church and how they're going to navigate the arrival of the Antichrist and what they're going to do to combat the demonic forces. As we know, the entity's actions raise questions about the ethics of using individuals like David and the lengths they're willing to go to protect the world. We also know that David's involvement with the entity is likely to continue to shake his faith and challenge his belief about the church. We know that David's allegiance to the church is being challenged by his involvement with the entity, highlighting the potential conflict between the church traditional approach and the more direct and sometimes questionable tactics of the entity. So what are your thoughts on this episode and how you're excited for the future of the series and your predictions as well? My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and I'll see you in the next one.